Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Getting a little feedback here, a little echo, but we're going to work that out. It's great to be with you today, everybody. On Friday, September 9th, 2022, I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. The voice of progressive Minnesota. The world's a very different place today. This morning, it changed. The longest monarch of the British Empire, Queen Elizabeth, made her transition. They put in what they call into effect Operation London Bridge. They've been planning, and these sorts of things are planned when you lose someone who has that kind of position. They do plan uh, the funerals and on and on and on. And it was called Operation London Bridge, and that is what we're watching now. Now we have King Charles III. What will all of that mean? What is the British Empire? What is the importance of it? Some people around the world, well, I think that everyone ought to certainly pay homage to this woman, this head of state, this wife, widow, mother, grandmother, great grandmother, of course. But her history and the history of the British Empire is one that's fraught with a lot of pain. And we saw several months ago in May when Prince William and his wife, Duchess Kate, went to the Caribbean. They had to abort their trip because they were surprised when they stood with the Jamaican Prime Minister, for example, and he said, "We are going to become a republic." When they couldn't figure out how to apologize for slavery and their role in it. There's a lot going on here. We need to talk about what the empire really is, what it's about. 94% of the Commonwealth nations are African and Indian, and more money flows out of Africa than goes into Africa. And much of that goes to Great Britain and countries that they touch. So we got to talk about that today as we pay homage to a woman who was head of state for 70 years. That is not, whatever your politics are. In my politics, I'm a Republican, small r. I'm not a monarchist. That having been said, I have to admire and respect someone who is able to sustain and maintain for 70 years. I think there's a lot that we can learn from that. That having been said, I think there's a lot we can learn from colonialism. And we're going to talk about that today, too. That piece is very important because Black Twitter went in on Queen Elizabeth. And a lot of progressives and just people who have lived under the boot of colonialism. Let us not forget the key role that Great Britain played in apartheid in South Africa, in jailing, and our government participated in that too, in making sure that Nelson Mandela was not only imprisoned, but that he was a terrorist, even as a head of state. And so, and on and on and on it goes. We got to talk about that today. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And I want you to tell me what your thoughts are about Queen Elizabeth. I mean, how you view her, and whatever your view is, you know you will be respected here. But I want to know what your thoughts are. And we're going to be talking about this $9+ million settlement that's being given to Black teachers here in Chicago that will happen at the bottom of this hour. What happened with these turnaround schools? These turnaround schools targeted Black teachers mainly, and they lost their jobs. Turnaround schools, what was that? Really moving toward the privatization of these schools, and it just hurt our children. If you hurt one, if you hurt one child, you hurt all children, and we need to think about that today, everybody. So let us get on with the show today. We've got a lot to talk about as we get some good news from Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Today, we'll have a high of 82 degrees. It will be sunny in Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, 72 degrees, showers. In the WNBA, The sun beat the sky 72 to 63. Sending much love to the sky. We love them. They're a great, great, great team in Major League Baseball. Wow, the White Sox were on fire yesterday. 14 to 2 over the A's. And Cincinnati 4 to 3 over the Cubs. And the Twins 4 to 3 over the Yankees. Yay. Queen Elizabeth, the longest reigning British monarch whose rule spanned 7 decades, died on Thursday at the age of 96, according to Buckingham Palace. Her death marks the end of an era for the United Kingdom, with most British people having known no other monarch in their lifetimes. And quite frankly, that goes for those of us all around the world. We've not known anyone else. But now we have King Charles III, who should be addressing his nation right about now, to let them know where they go from here. So we will see. The mourning period will last 7 days beyond her funeral. Two tropical storms are moving toward the east and west coasts of the United States today, with each packing forceful winds that could create a slew of different challenges for people. We're dealing with flooding all around the country and indeed all around the world, everybody. In California, residents are bracing for Tropical Storm K, which could bring a year's worth of rain in the coming hours. A year's worth of rain in the coming hours. This has triggered flood concerns in parts of Southern California with all of those hills. What will happen with those houses that are on those hills, everybody, as the soil beneath these homes get drenched? Pay attention, because guess what? It could happen here. The mayor of Washington, D.C., declared a public health emergency on Thursday, yesterday, in response to thousands of migrants arriving in the nation's capital by bus from Texas and Arizona. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott started busing migrants to Washington in April to protest the Biden administration's immigration policies. Governor Abbott and Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, another Republican, so far have sent hundreds of buses to Washington, D.C., and neither has expressed any intention of stopping. Texas has sent more than 7,900 migrants to D.C. and more than 2,200 migrants to New York City. Arizona, which is only sending buses to D.C., has sent 1,677. The Justice Department has appealed a court ordered special master review of the materials seized by the FBI during its search of Mar a Lago. The Department of Justice has argued the order for a special master or third party attorney has national security, halting access to the classified documents seized during the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. What do you think about that, everybody? Well, I would want to know what they seized, but that's just me. So let's just get to it, everybody. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And I want to hear from you, Matt, up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I want to hear from you, Eric, out in Los Angeles, and Max, and everybody in DC. Everybody's in calling from all around the country. I want to hear from you today. What are your thoughts? Because a lot of people had a lot of different reactions to uh, beyond what you see in the corporate media. Right, the corporate media is pushing a particular narrative, and I get it. But a lot of people have some kind of feeling about British colonialism and the impact that it has had across the world. Just think about it. The common language that bonds the world together, that binds the world, is English. And that's because of imperialism. Okay, so let's talk about it. 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Let's get to you, the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York, and of course the author of I See You, Sis, giving us a word today. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, how are you? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. What is the good news, my sister? Mhm. Hmm. That is interesting that you would bring that up because, well, to me, and I think it's interesting to a lot of people, particularly when we break it down and really think about it. And let me just say to Paul and to Miss Andy in the studio, no one on Facebook can hear the sound, so we need to rectify that. So please work on that. Thank you very much. Um, it is interesting the things that you do um, at this time of year because Chicago traditionally, uh, after Labor Day, got cool. We remember what they used to call, and might be pejorative now, Indian summer. That was a week or so after Labor Day when it was still summer like weather, when you didn't have to wear a jacket. But in Chicago, when I was growing up, after Labor Day, oh no, no, no. My mother had the mothballs. She had we were doing this change over on our clothes. I had to do that every season. And but even, with the darkness and all of that, it really does depress people. It really does bring you down. And then you kind of retreat inward. You'll eat more and things like that. You build up some kind of insulation. Um, and what what can we do? Just if you is there anything you should do to blunt it, to if you see it coming? Because this is kind of year, because it is it look, it's kind of heartbreaking to see summer go. It is. It is. The older I get, I'm like, wait a minute, already? Oh, hold on 1 second. Paul and Miss Andy, I need you all to work on this because now and this is something that Mr. Addy worked on. They can't hear the guest on Facebook, and so I need you to call him and find out what is going on because they cannot hear Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, which means they will not be able to hear anyone else, which is not going to work. What we're going to do, I want all of you to go to WCPT820.com and listen. You can still watch this, but we've been streaming and we've not had a problem in a couple of weeks. And so we need to work on that right now, please. Thank you so much. But continue, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams.
Hmm. Okay, so you believe in a therapist. Should the therapist be someone who's biblically based, or should it be a psychiatrist, a psychologist? Is there a preference? Hmm. Everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. And I tell you, because as we hear about suicides going into the holiday season, and that's the season that we're moving into, I think it, yes. So, what would you encourage people to do? And the first therapist you go to might not be the one who, upon whom you settle, right? You just keep going until you find someone. Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
For a while until you're ready to come back and get it, allowing you to explore the city and enjoy your time in that space even more. That's what I say therapy is. Therapy is a place to leave our baggage while we enjoy life. You'll be able to come back and pick it up again. Your therapist will keep it in safe hands. But until you're ready to deal with it, you can continue to explore your life, continue to look into other things. And when you're ready to come back to that space, you'll be able to pick it up. That's all therapy is. It gives you some place to dump your emotional baggage for a little while until you're ready to process it.
Okay. All right, everybody. So I was able to fix this over here. I don't know what happened yesterday, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I had not changed my settings at all since yesterday. This all the things that we do, but there are a lot of little things I'm going to be changing. So there we go. But everybody, get the help that you need, because I think that that is what's very, very important. Because we are loath to get the help that we need, and I think that we're going to have to be very, very, very careful about that. Because we praise, for example, the strong Black woman, and Black people, you all are so strong, you're so resilient. We're in a lot of pain. And anyone, I was talking to a friend of mine who's Jewish, and we were comparing our grandmothers, who both of these grandmothers that we were talking about have edges, sharp edges. But and they both passed on to glory now. But I said, when I look back in the last year or so of my grandmother Gertrude's life, she came to my sister in particular and said, "Let me explain myself to you." Because she had been orphaned when she was 12, and she was alone in the world, alone. And she had to fight, And again, and so when she had to look at girls with daddies, that was something that she couldn't even fathom. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams couldn't fathom it, because she never knew that kind of protection. But that's all my sister Jackie and I've ever known. You know what I mean? And then my friend talked about all the things. He said, when I think about what my grandmother had to do to survive, to make it, as the Germans were chasing her down, he said, that's the untold story. you had to cut on the ground, if you know what I mean. And I said, wow.
Yeah.
And, and he and I talked about this for like several hours one day, you know. And he said, so, yeah, my mother was deliberate in kind of keeping us away because she had an edge. I didn't have it like that bad, but I get it, and I think that whenever we have mental health issues, whenever we have these issues, what we need to do is get the help that you need. Oftentimes in life, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, we go for what it is that we want before we get what it is that we need. Get what you need first. Yes.
That's right.
I have
You'll be better equipped.
Better equipped. Come on, everybody. So look, love you so much. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I will call you shortly. Stay right there. Everybody wants you to call me at 773-763-9278. Let's talk about this huge settlement. Well, it's not huge. It's a good settlement that's coming to these Black teachers who were pushed out of their jobs. We closed all these schools here. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams closed all these schools, and they were schools that were named after historical Black figures. And it was horrible. Horrible. We need more schools, not fewer. Who has ever heard of anything so insane? Well, maybe if you want to make people less smart and more manageable, less enlightened and more entertained. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Pastor Williams, I promise you, I'll call you right after the show. I don't do any of this newfangled stuff. I just want you to know.
You all right? Are you okay?
You know what it is? I don't know what happened here. I catch a lot. I mean, unfortunately, I have an audience who will, my morning stars are so engaged with me and they're so wonderful. And they reach out. They're like, something's not happening here. And nothing changed. I don't touch my settings for StreamYard.
Right.
I don't touch my settings for the radio because
I
know.
What are you streaming through?
I'm going through StreamYard, which is what Jim set up.
What's feeding StreamYard? Is it like a computer, PC, Mac, iPad?
No, I got it. I changed it.
Santita, I was late today. I was going to say I was giving Raelle a spelling test and it went over. So I told her, I had told your your assistant, that I needed a few more minutes.
Oh, I didn't know. I had no idea. Well, we have to move on to this other piece, but I got to get you back.
So go right ahead. Absolutely. I just wanted to tell you that, but have a great show.
I love you, sweetie. And Pastor Williams,
I'll talk to you soon.
Of course, I'll call you right after the show. But let me do this housekeeping with you, Paul. The thing is, I never change anything. And, we set this because I had to check this with Jim when he came over here to set this up. So what I decided to do once my people called me, and that's why, Miss Andy, what we have to do before we get on the air is that's why I like to get my guest on early, the person who does the good news, because I can find out from my StreamYard audience if they're able to hear them. Okay? Miss Andy?
She's calling your guest right now.
But that's what I want to do, Paul. That's why that's why I get people
What
up.
device are you streaming through StreamYard? Is it an iPad or
No, it's not an iPad. It's the same device I've been using. It's my PC. And I set it up with Jim. So what I did was I went into settings and I went through different mics and I had to change the mic that I was on yesterday.
What mic was that?
Well, it's a new mic. I'll take a picture of it. I'm trying to get ready for the next segment right now. But I had to change. I had to change the mic settings. I went to another mic, but I went over this. Jim and I went over this because we had to test this because this was the problem. This is the problem that I've been having for months, and so I never touch StreamYard. I don't do it. So I don't know what happened. But what I want to do is test before we get on there. That's why I want to have the good news people up by 6 so I can talk with them and then my audience could let me know if they hear them. Okay? So let's go on and proceed because I changed the settings. I went to another mic and now they can hear me. So that's good.
Okay, so now you've got Brown and Green are on the line and then Ms. Andy's calling your last guest.
Okay, thank you. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
It's wonderful hearing your voices. Wonderful
Sure,
hearing your
sure.
voices. I can't wait for you to tell us about this settlement.
About the settlement. Well, we're happy. We're happy now. We have something to cheer about.
Okay, well, well, just let me know what we're looking at. Okay, so no, we're not on the air yet.
Okay.
Well, because I will certainly introduce you. But can you give me the pronunciation of your names? Is it Vivanel Brown?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Robert Green.
My name is Robert Green, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are you teachers or paraprofessionals in the system?
Coming back in 15 seconds, and Attorney Cowling is on the line.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. And are you outside? If you could roll up your window.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about our public schools. And let's make sure we get Chaparral Wells up so we can find out about these wonderful vittles that we get from Celebrations by Us. And we'll have her on, Paul and Miss Andy, just before we get off of this particular segment. Chicago is at the heart of public education in the United States of America, under former Superintendent Arnie Duncan and during the Daley administration. Quite frankly, this is something that they tested here, but they rolled out all across the country. We've been watching the privatization, if you will, of public schools, the charterization of public schools, which really is a relic of the post-Brown era, right? Because the Brown versus Board of Education decision was as much an economic decision as it was a social decision. What Black parents wanted was not integration as much as they wanted desegregation. They wanted the same resources, since they were paying the same taxes. They wanted their monies to account for as much on their side of town as they did on the white side of town, right? And so we've had this whole push and pull in American society about education, about equity in education, about whether we're going to educate the populace. And while it impacts Black people and brown people and poor people most profoundly, we're the canaries in the mine. Eventually, it hits everybody else. There's always a push to have whether we're going to have an educated citizenry or not. So in 2012 and 2015, as we've had this struggle to keep schools open, particularly in the Black community, schools named after historical Black figures, schools populated by Black principals and assistant principals and paraprofessionals and teachers, the lunch lady and the man who serves you lunch and the janitorial staff, a whole ecosystem. You had in 2012 and 2015, the CTU and 3 teachers filing lawsuits against the Chicago Board of Education, challenging turnaround policies. So I want to know what happened here and why it is that the Chicago Board of Education had to get up off of a whole lot of money for these teachers. Everybody, let us welcome to the show Vivanel Brown from the Chicago Teachers Union, Robert Green from the Chicago Teachers Union, and their attorney, Attorney Patrick Cowlin. How are you? How's everyone this morning?
Very good.
It's wonderful to hear you. Well, you know what? Let me start with my friends from the CTU. Let me start with you, Vivanel Brown. What happened? What turnaround schools? What is that? What happened? And how did all of these primarily African American teachers get fired?
Well, I guess you could call it school reform, but I always call it school deform because it wasn't reforming anything. What it was really doing, it was more of a shell or a scam. And what would happen is the onus would be on certain schools to bring up their academic scores. Basically, it was all about scores. So some schools that didn't perform well, those schools were then put on a list. and after they were on the list, after say a year, then all the staff would be replaced, all the teachers would be fired. But what's routinely happening is with this brand of school reform is that all the teachers who were fired were African American teachers working in African American schools and African American communities, and they were replaced with, I would say, 99%, 90% all white teachers. So what I was documenting when I was going into the schools that had undergo school reform is you would see all white staff in all black communities teaching all black children. And I asked the question, how can this be? What kind of school reform is this? In addition to the discriminatory nature of it, it was kind of like domino. Once you had, say, 10 or 12 schools that were deemed to be failing, those schools would be closed, and the students who attended those schools would be directed to other schools that were supposed to be successful. However, since a lot of what they determined to be successful amounted to was basically it's like comparing apples and oranges. You had students who were going to schools in poor neighborhoods where you had the social problems. You had a lot of single parent families. You had students living in shelters. You had students who didn't have proper clothing, food to eat, living almost on their own, attending school every day. So these schools were identified right away. Now these students were sent to schools that were supposed to be successful schools. At one time, the school where I taught, Woodson Elementary School, was one of those schools. We had some of the highest scores in the entire city. And then we had an influx of students who came from the schools that were deemed to be failing schools. Mm-hmm. And then what happens once they come to your doors, then your scores go down, and then it's like dominoes. Your school is now, after a year, it's deemed to be a failing school. Through no fault of the faculty, same faculty that at one time produced some of the highest scores in Chicago is now deemed a failing school through no fault of our own.
Yeah, but but these children, let me just, because I'm a product of the Chicago Public Schools, K through 12.
So am I.
And so I'm a fan of public education, and my family are fans of public education. And my brothers and my sister were mostly educated in the public school system. Some children take longer to blossom. Some children are ill prepared. And for me, and some children don't test well. Sometimes you don't find someone's genius until they are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. What is concerning to me is that they're teaching for the scores and not for the skills. I mean, you're not
teaching for the scores and not for the skills. That's exactly what's taking place.
Okay.
So what happens now? What happens is you have students who are just highly mobile now, moving from one school to another school, all over the place. Buses moving this way, buses moving that way, and every year you have another list of schools that are deemed to be failing. You actually had schools that were worried about the influx of students coming from another school
I've seen it because I went to John J. Pershing School on 31st and Rhodes, 3113. It became Cottage Grove, and now it's no longer a school. And there was another school that bordered it. The test scores at Pershing were extremely high, but at the schools that bordered, absolutely, the schools that bordered Lake Meadows and Prairie Shores, the scores were not so high, and that was always a worry. But Mr. Green.
Yes.
Well,
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you're still there. But Mr. Vivanel, because I do want to hear Mr. Green's thoughts too.
Yeah.
So what happened? Why'd you sue?
Well, because Mr. Green, speak, Mr. Green.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Well, the injustice was so blatant that the teacher community was the only one to make it apparent that there was an injustice in place, because Board of Education in the city of Chicago were proud of these efforts. They thought they were doing something good. They thought they were coming in on a big white horse to save everybody, and they didn't take under consideration all the circumstances that we have been enduring for years and years of the injustice of and the inequity of how monies were distributed to Northside schools, and we would be sometimes coming out of our pockets just to keep our classes going along.
Of course.
To commit those efforts and energies into teaching your children, and then for somebody to walk up and tell you you're not doing a good job, you're fired, was a gut shot, and it affected a lot of teachers to the point of depression.
Of course.
And I was a substitute teacher for a lot of years, and you should hear some of the stories of teachers how they were just depressed and they were just thinking about giving up. And it's like, this lawsuit gave us hope.
Well,
this lawsuit gave us hope that the system does work.
I should ask Attorney Cowlin. The lawsuit, what did it charge? What was proven here?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
This was a case that was a couple different legal theories. It alleged that these turnarounds had a disparate impact on the African American teachers and paraprofessionals, and that they were part of a pattern or practice of discrimination, which is an intentional discrimination cause of action, because the board had been doing this for a number of years, and there was really no proof that firing an entire faculty and staff would have a positive impact on the students' educational performance, whether you're measuring that in test scores or in any other way. Really, they made no sense. So, as these two gentlemen have articulately said, something had to be done, and the CTU leadership back when these suits were first filed in 2012, included, of course, the late great Karen Lewis, who had the courage to fight for her members in any venue that was necessary, whether it's in the legislature, whether it's in the courts, and whether it's on the streets. And leadership since then, with Mr. Sharkey and now Stacey Davis Gates, helped us see this case through, provided the support for the expert witnesses we needed to get to this point in the case where we've now reached a settlement of $9.25 million for the approximately just over 400 Black educators involved. The case is about to go to trial, and we look forward to that, but it made sense to take this settlement as a win for the community.
Now, I understand that today is the last day that what can happen?
Yeah, so we need people to submit claim forms in order to be eligible to receive a payment from the settlement fund. Today is the last day to submit claim forms. They were mailed out earlier in the year, and we've done some follow-up, but there are still some people who haven't submitted theirs, and I just encourage them to reach out to me if they need another form, and today's the last day. So you can go to our website, fishlawfirm.com, or you can call me at 312-205-1702.
Okay, give me wait. Let's get that number again, because a lot of people do not have internet access. So give me the website again, and give me the telephone number again. Let's start with the telephone number. 312
05.
Okay, I think someone's in a car. I need you to roll up the window. Okay. Or if you're outside, get into a quiet space. Okay. Attorney Cowlin, what is the telephone number again? Is it 312-205-1702?
It is.
Okay. And please, the website.
You can check out our firm's website, Fish Potter Bolaños, at fishlawfirm.com.
FISH?
Correct.
Okay, lawfirm.com. Mr. Brown, will the teachers be rehired? And I'm asking you and Mr. Green this. I mean, because you have these teachers who have these extraordinary skill sets. Are you just not teaching anymore? I mean, what's going on?
No, I can tell you that for a fact that I have a few colleagues who are still teaching, but most of them chose, those who were eligible chose retirement, and they chose retirement simply because it was too difficult for them to continue on. I'll give you an example of the kind of obstacles that they face. After a specific period of time, say about a year or so like that, Chicago Public Schools will then change a teacher status from citywide tenured teacher to substitute teacher. Once that status changed, teachers who had been promised that they'd be paid for all their sick days whenever they left the system, and in my case, there were a lot of days because for 20 or so odd years, I almost never missed a day of work, banked a lot of sick days, and they were going to pay us all for those. And then at the last minute, when I talked to someone down at the board, that no, they're going to wipe out all of our cash, all the money that they promised teachers that they would receive when they retired. They were just going to take it away if their status changed. They never mentioned that to us. So a lot of teachers kind of lost everything that they thought they had if they didn't retire within a year or something like that. So I talked to someone at the board, and I said, so if my status were all of a sudden to change to substitute teacher, not substitute teacher, but I was filling a vacancy for another teacher. And he said, well, then it'll be reinstated. And I said, so then if it was reinstated, because I was subbing for another teacher, as a teacher, he said, then you could receive that if you retired. And I said, well, maybe I should go that route. And the guy said to me, well, Mr. Brown, you wouldn't do that because you have a lot of class. And I'm thinking, not about as much class as Chicago Public Schools, okay? So many of my colleagues retired because they didn't want to lose everything, and they were close enough to retire. So if you would just round up the Woodson staff from 2012, you would just have a lot of retirees. A lot of teachers who planned on teaching for another 10 years or more, they just all retired. So they're all gone now.
Gone where? Mr. Green?
Well, I mean, to piggyback off that, they would rather replace them with teachers they didn't have to pay as much as top-heavy teachers. So they would rather just clear the board. I mean, even when people were making interviews for new teachers, they would choose a younger teacher, and the experience that was put into the system was taken away. And the thing about it is, after when you retire, they take the highest 4 years of the last 10. So if you're serving in the system and you get toward the end of your tenure and you substitute teaching, that would dictate that your pension would go down. So you was almost forced to retire. It wasn't an option because it made no logistical sense to keep going on, and it would lower your pension for all the years you put into the system. So you was almost forced to retire just on the logistics of the outcome of your pension. So a lot of teachers just gave up and just retired or went into the suburban districts and started a whole new career with another system.
See, Regina, what's bothering me is this. You have all of these children and young people who are having trouble with reading and reading comprehension, mathematics. I mean, look, I was always looking for a tutor when I was trying to figure out something. Or just someone who could help me with a particular problem. I'd get to school early and see Mr. Bazil because we had just a crazy math class with him where he just taught us at the college level and he just taught us theory, which was great. That having been said, I just can't believe you have all of these all of these highly skilled teachers, and particularly teachers who are dealing with kids who are dealing with challenges at home. And it's not just no money, because I mean, a lot of folks have had single parents. And look, the Columbine boys had both parents, and look at what they did. So I don't want to hear that. At some point, people need support. And I'm wondering where all of these teachers who we could use, we need them. And they've just been flushed out the system. That is insane. Let me get Dynamo from Minnesota. Dynamo, what's on your mind, sweetie? Let's bring up Dynamo from Minnesota. Okay, well, you know what? You all get him together. But so where do the teachers go? Where do the teachers go? And I urge you, if you are one of these teachers, please call 312-205-1702. 312-205-1702. Today is the deadline. You need to be able to file and get your money today. Or go to fishlawfirm.com. fishlawfirm.com. fishlawfirm.com, or call the law office at 312-205-1702 and spread the word, everybody. Spread the word. Dynamo, how you doing? Okay, I don't know why Dynamo's not responding, but you all try to work that out. I mean, so where do we go from here? First you, Mr. Brown, and then you, Mr. Green. I mean, what do you want to see happen? Mr. Brown?
What I would like to see happen is I would like to see the turnaround model end in Chicago, okay, across the nation. It's blatantly discriminatory. And that's one of the things that I talked to some of the lawyers at CPS back in 2012. I talked with a couple of their attorneys, with my attorney present. And I talked to them about the kinds of schools that were being constituted out of school reform, where you saw all of a sudden influx of individuals from outside the community teaching African-American children in African-American communities. I said, this is blatantly racist. I don't know what else to say about the policy. Maybe it was institutionalized racism. Maybe it was a law of unintended consequences. I don't know. I know that it's not supposed to look like that. Okay, I knew that. So when I talked to some of the attorneys from CPS, one of them, and I talked about how the schools have been. One of them said to me, Mr. Brown, you know that the LSC and the principals do the hiring in these schools. And I said to them, what I hear you saying is not me. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. So in my opinion, their attorneys had admitted to discrimination. They were just trying to blame the principals in the LSC. That tells me they knew exactly what was taking place. And
but you know what? I think one of the concerns that I have, and I haven't grown up in Operation Breadbasket, Operation Pushing the Rainbow, we always had an education division who met every week, and they would present their issues weekly at the Saturday morning forum. I think organizing through the union is a great thing, but you're going to have to do more because the community doesn't know that this is happening, right? And that has to happen. We need to know what's happening, and you have to organize out with these parents and the PTAs and all of that. I realize things are not the way they were 40 years ago when I was in school here, but still, there is organizing always works. That's why Karen Lewis was so great. It works.
I think that I think that during the period of this process, we forgot that teachers are human beings, and I think it took an emotional toll on a lot of teachers.
Of course,
I know I even had to do seasonal labor for the Force Reserve one year, just to keep my economical status afloat. I mean, so you have to go through different situations to understand no matter how much you put into a job, that someone walk up to you and tell you you're fired and you're not doing your job, and you're getting a process, you're getting excellent ratings, and you're getting rave reviews, and people pat you on the back telling you what a good job you're doing, and some guy walks up and puts you on his head on his shoulder and say, hey, you're fired, everybody's got to go.
Well, but you also see that people in the upper class are not protected either, right? Because the middle class for Black people is, that's in high cotton. But the fact is, nobody's safe. That's why I'm saying, getting involved and being involved on a grassroots level, to me, is very, very.
I'd like to speak
that's
to
very. I only have 1 minute left, and it belongs to you.
I'm sorry.
No. It's just 1 minute. No, go on.
I did work with some grassroots organizations. I remember GT in particular. He used to meet us every week. We had a meeting and we talked about what was taking place in Chicago public schools. And I can tell you that we did a lot to try to get the message out about how many of these African American teachers were losing their jobs. Because at the time, almost 1/3 of the teachers in Chicago were African Americans. Today, that number is only it's less than 20%. That's how many African American teachers have been lost because of school reform. And we tried to get the message out back in 2012, but we were being drowned out by Rahm Emanuel's megaphone.
Absolutely. Well, but we voted for him now, didn't we? And we tried, some of us tried to tell y'all that was a bad idea. And look at what happened. Just because he announced from the White House, we said, oh, he's going to help us. He has had no history of doing that. And now look at us. But the thing is, I will say this to you, having grown up in this thing, this is something you have to do week in, week out. My father's 80 years old with Parkinson's. He's older. I've got to go see him at Shirley Ryan today. And people are saying, oh, if he were at his peak, he'd be, and you all, many of you ignored him then. Not everybody, but enough. The fact is, the work is ongoing. It never stops. We got to do it all the time. And we have to demand that our churches give us platforms to talk about this because these are our children. So everybody call 312-205-1702. 312-205-1702, and then go to the fishlawfirm.com website. Fishlawfirm.com website. The deadline is today, but I tell you what, Mr. Attorney Cowlin, if we don't get everybody today, they need to push back that deadline because this is not going to work. Ridiculous, just ridiculous. Chappelle, we're going to talk about celebrations by us on the other side of the break. And you know what, Mr. Brown and Mr. Green, I invite you to come back to the show to talk about your issues. We talk about education all the time here, all the time. And we're gonna make some changes because that's what needs to happen. Let's talk about Queen Elizabeth, everybody. What is her legacy? What is it? 94% of the Commonwealth countries and
stays in the cause.
Why don't we do this?
Under the Queen, but
next week, because I have Brandon Johnson on the show all the time. Because I know Commissioner Johnson. Number one, he has a show here at 9:00 on Sunday mornings. You all should definitely get on that. You should get on that because disregard the deadline today. This is an issue that is ongoing. And if you miss some people, they still shouldn't miss their money. They should extend the deadline or something. People can do whatever it is that they want to do.
Well,
but I'd love for you to come back and talk about, and talk about these issues. I talk about education issues a lot. I do. So we will. So I promise you will come back on the show. Okay.
We'll be happy to.
We appreciate your efforts also.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, I mean, I wish I could, I'm going to do what I can. That having been said, I would,
I was very inspired by your dad. I was very inspired by Reverend Jackson. He came to a graduation and spoke once. And listening to him inspired me to graduate from college. And I went and got a couple of master's degrees and a principal certificate. But at the time that he spoke at Olive Harvey College, I wasn't on track to do all of that. And the words that he spoke that night were very heartfelt. And I carried those words away with me. And I thought to myself, gee, that analogy is me.
Well, you know what? Pass it on. Because that's all he wants you to do. Because, he's a minister.
Yes.
And his ministry has not had any walls and there's been no borders. And the work is ongoing. It just doesn't stop. I was with him until about 9:00 last night, writing up this statement about Queen Elizabeth, because I was trying to get some context because some other people didn't have it. And he just doesn't stop. He doesn't stop, even as his body, as he's fighting Parkinson's, because he's got it. But he's going to keep on going until he can go no more. And that's one of the things I love and admire about him so much, that he loves people. Well, don't just applaud him, honey. Join him, because this is our fight, right? This is our fight. It's our fight. It's our fight. It's our fight.
I am somebody.
And that's right. We have to, act like it, and we gotta keep on going. But I'm gonna send you. I've got to free up these phone lines. But let us. You should reach out to Brandon Johnson today. Could I give him your number? I'm sure you know him, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Okay, because you should talk about this issue. I don't know what he has on. I don't know what he has on track for Sunday. But it's such a big issue. But I need to free up these lines, so I'm gonna have to let you guys go. I'm sending you much love, though.
All right.
Thanks,
Good morning. Thank you.
family.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Oh, look, I can't wait to have you back. God bless.
All right. Bye-bye.
Chaparral, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you on quickly, and then I'm gonna go right into this other live read, and then we're gonna go right into Queen Elizabeth. So there's that. Okay.
God save the Queen.
No, God save the King now.
I know, Santita. I was like, oh goodness. I said, as soon as it happened, as soon as I heard about it, Santita, I said, Prince Charles around there singing, so I just can't wait to be king.
I don't know, because you know what? That's a heck of a burden, and things have changed so much.
It is.
Things have changed so much.
I wonder if people will accept him, though.
Well, the thing is, I hope that they begin to get over monarchy. More money flows out of Africa than flows in. And when you see Prince Harry and Prince William as the head of the Land Preservation Trust and the Animal Preservation, that's just land ownership.
30 seconds, Miss Jackson.
Okay, who do we have on, Miss Andy?
So right now we have Attorney Connolly, Chaparral, obviously Attorney Patillo, and Dwight McKee.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, second hour. Just been working through some issues today, but we're so glad to be with you, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, sending you all much love up there, Chad Larson, and Sound of Blackness, Gary Hines, and everybody sending Spike and oh my goodness, so all of my friends up there, I'm sending you much love, much love today. Chicago, we're going to have a high of 82 degrees. It'll be sunny. It's already beautiful. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 72 degrees, showers. And guess what? The sky fell to the sun yesterday. The sun 72, the sky 63. In Major League Baseball, White Sox 14. Whew, the A's 2. Go Sox. Cincinnati 4, the Cubs 3, and the Twins, yes, 4-3 over the Yankees. Queen Elizabeth, everybody's talking about her today, the longest reigning monarch. British monarch whose rule spanned 70 years, died yesterday at the age of 96, according to Buckingham Palace. Her death marks the end of an era for the United Kingdom, with most Brits having known no other monarch in their lifetimes. Of course, she is also the head of the Commonwealth countries, more than 50 of them. 94% of them are African and East Indian. What's going to happen there? 94%. And so much of that money that flows into Great Britain comes from the financial arrangements that they have with these Commonwealth countries. We're going to be talking about that because that is part of the discussion too. Two tropical storms are moving toward the east and west coasts at the same time of the United States, everybody, with each packing forceful winds that could create a slew of different challenges for millions of people in California. Residents are bracing for Tropical Storm K, which could bring a year's worth of rain in the coming hours. This has triggered flood concerns in parts of Southern California, and people are also worried about mudslides and things like that, everybody. The mayor of Washington, D.C. declared a public health emergency on Thursday in response to thousands of migrants arriving in the nation's capital by bus from Texas and Arizona. The Justice Department has appealed a court-ordered special master review of the materials seized by the FBI during its search of Mar-a-Lago. The DOJ has argued the order for a special master or a third-party attorney has put the U.S. national security at risk by halting access to the classified documents seized during the search of former President Donald Trump's Florida residence, everybody. All right, everybody. So what about Queen Elizabeth? Wow, she took the helm. She assumed authority at a very, very young age. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Serving for 70 years. Indeed, she even welcomed the new government just 2 days before her death. And she looked rather fragile, rather frail. I certainly saw that. And then she was gone, but she worked until the end. Whatever you think of the politics and all of that, you cannot deny her willingness to work and work hard for 70 years. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. But you got a couple of live reads to get out the way. Chaparral, thank you for holding on. Now, Chaparral, have you gone back to your oxtails? Can I get any? Are you going to do that anymore?
I'll be making some next week for sure because I have a taste test. But Santita, we are on the road. We're headed to Atlanta for the weekend. We're going to do a setup there as well as also food and decor. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. And we do travel, as you can see, and you can give us a call for all of your decor needs, your custom suite tables, as well as also your backdrops, your balloon arches, and your food. So call us at 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, girl, you need to call Robert Patillo, who's on with us, and attorney C.K. Hoffler. You gotta get on the stick. You know, they want some good food, but Robert is a gourmet cook himself. He's fabulous. Oh, the pictures that he will send me.
If Robert's going to be on talking about the Queen, I need to turn up the radio because I know I'm going to be laughing.
Oh my God! Well, you'll be informed. Certainly, you'll be informed. Love you, Chaparral. Please, safe travels, traveling grace and mercies to you and your family. Love you, Chaparral. Celebrations by us 708-526-4546. Hey, everybody, we've been looking at financial freedom. And if you have poor credit, if you need to rebuild your credit, if you need to build your credit, if you're using your debit card and you can't get a credit card, That's a no-no. Call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit them at 56david.com so that you can get your financial life in order. If you want to purchase a home, if you want to come up with a plan to purchase a home, if you know your credit is not where it needs to be, they can help you with that. If your credit is taking a hit, they can help you with that. If you need to refinance your home, if you've been turned down for loans, FHA, VA, they can help you with that. If you need to find out what a reverse mortgage really is, they can help you with that. Tom and Sonia, 2 kids, $100,000 in credit card bills. 17 credit cards, trying to make it like everybody else. Well, they called Team Hochberg, and what Team Hochberg did was sit them down. They sat them down, free consultation, and Tom and Sonia told them everything. And then they came back to them with a plan, and they were able to reduce their credit card payments by over $2,800. That's right. That could be you. They also got them an FHA loan. That could be. There's nothing too hard for them to do, to work out for your financial health. So I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. I'm going to have him on next week because there's a great Bank of America program. I don't want to know what he knows about it. 0 down payment, 0 closing costs for mortgages for Black and Hispanic first-time home buyers. David Hochberg will be on the Santita Jackson Show next week, and he's also going to be, he's working with a young lady to help her to become a home buyer. That's a special project of the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get to this, everybody. Let's get right to it. I want to know what you think about Queen Elizabeth and her passing. A lot of people, this has reopened a conversation about colonialism, about monarchy. And I want to know what your thoughts are. I mean, because as much as we love Princess Diana, she didn't want to end the monarchy. No. She said that she just wanted them to be nicer. But is that really what needs to happen here? So you know what? Let's talk about this today. Who was Queen Elizabeth? What did she mean? What does she mean? There's a Carnegie Mellon professor who said monarch of a thieving empire, and boy, she's gotten into trouble at one of the world's leading universities. Black Twitter has gone in on this. Some people are saying that the new colonialism is what the Commonwealth is. More than 50 countries, 94% of them are African and East Indian. That is where they get their money from. So when you see Prince William and Prince Harry going to Africa, and they're like, I feel at home here and all of this, and I'm sure that they do. And, they're head of this land trust and the land preservation, this and all of that. Well, that means they are overseeing land that they own. Should they? Let's talk about it. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, we got Dwight McKee. That's right, Dr. D with us today, noted social scientist, and attorney Robert Patillo. Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. Of course, he is the host of his own show on WAOK in Atlanta, which is iconic Black talk radio station out of Atlanta, but you can hear it all over the world from 1 to 4 every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. Okay, Attorney Robert Patillo, why don't you kick things off for us? What about... a lot of people are feeling a lot of kind of ways. I mean, first, let me say this. 96 years of age, served on her job really 2 days before she died. I respect and admire that. And I send all of my love and prayers to her family, because at the end of the day, she is a mother. She was a mother. She was a grandmother, a great-grandmother. And she was beloved by a nation and nations. And I certainly do appreciate that. But there was also a political side of Robert Patillo, and I think we need to explore all of this. Robert Patillo.
Thank you so much, Santita. I think the reason that you're seeing the entirety of the colonized world come together in celebration is not for the death of the queen that they're celebrating. I know some people, you have to separate the individual from the institution. The individual herself, I know absolutely nothing about the lady. I don't know what her voice sounds like. I don't know what she does for fun. I know nothing about her personally. But the institution of European monarchies dying on a global scale is something that I think you're seeing Irish Twitter, Black Twitter, Indian subcontinent Twitter, Southeast Asian Twitter, all come together and realize just the fact that, as you said, even though they've changed the name of colonialism, they've changed the name of mercantilism, we still have effectively the exact same system where imperial powers send their tentacles out throughout the globe, absorb resources, bring them back to Europe or to America or to China, and then use those to prop up their dying empires, to prop up the global 1%. And the reason that people are celebrating is, I believe, this might be that Cassia Belli, that moment that gets people to unite and say, look, we're not going to continue this system, because at the end of the day, if Africa and India and Southeast Asia and Central America and South America and the Caribbean all band together and say, we're not taking this, and not just that, we want our money and our stuff back, not just from the British monarchy, but from the French colonial holdings, from the Dutch East India Company, from the Spanish crown, etc., then you can reset the global order. Let's understand the way that the global economy is structured currently does not make any sense. The countries with the least resources in Northern Europe control the vast majority of the places that have sunshine, warm weather, good food, beautiful women, wonderful beaches, etc. And I think people are very tired of hundreds of years of exploitation, and this conversation has begun. I think Queen, whatever her name is, that she kind of fell into the crossfires of this. That is, her death just happened to be the catalyzing moment for this conversation. Because the conversation is long overdue. Because if you look at the way that they have brainwashed generations of humans on this planet into believing that God came down from on high and told these particular European white families that they got to be in charge of the entire globe for eternity, I think that is a fever dream that many of us are no longer comfortable with accepting, and that we want to break down this concept of the Disney princess. We want to break down this concept of the glory of Europe, and that the death of the Queen Lady has been what caused this conversation. And I hope that she rests well and is in peace and all those things. But I do think that this is the moment we have to unite as the global South, as those people who are not part of those royal families, and demand the return of thing that was stolen over the course of the last 1,000 years by these European colonial empires.
Well, I think that there's something to be said for that. I was reading an article from 2017 that said more wealth leaves Africa than flows into Africa by more than 40 billion American dollars. Indeed, it is said that African countries receive more than $100 billion in aid, right? But $200 billion is taken out of Africa every year. And those are 5-year-old numbers, and it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. And who's in the Commonwealth? There were not even 10 countries in the Commonwealth when Queen Elizabeth assumed the throne, when she ascended to the throne. Now there are more than 50. 21 African countries, 8 Asian countries, 13 Caribbean countries, and in the Americas, including Canada to the north, Europe, 3 countries, the Pacific region, 11 countries, 32 small states, and on and on and on. I mean, this is a financial arrangement when you look at the Commonwealth. Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
Well, I think Robert hit it right on the head, but it's also mass brainwashing. You almost have to applaud somebody who can convince a whole nation that God has put them in charge for generations, and all the wealth should go to their 1 or 2 families for generations. And people bow and curtsy and sing "God Save the Queen" from being exploited. It's really the phenomenon when you think about it, that for hundreds and hundreds of years that these people worship other folk that exploit them and send them to war and take all their resources and strangle their lifestyles. And yet they are exalted as somehow nobility or ahead of everybody else in the world. It's a phenomenon to me. It also amazes me how America buys into it. The land of the free, the home of the brave. It's these Americans are fascinated by English royalty. It's very interesting. As we built the White House and they burned down Tulsa, the British burned the White House, and the white people sing "God Save the Queen."
Burned it down.
I mean, it's really the
burned down all of
and
D.C.
we sing God Save, and we sing "God Save the Queen." It's that our fascination, and I think it has a lot to do with Disneyland and all of these movies and TV shows that we see, that we're raised to really almost believe that the Queen is next to the Virgin Mary in terms of the Queen of Heaven and Earth.
But what about the business of monarchy? I mean, Robert Patillo, when you see more money flowing out of Africa than flowing into Africa, Robert Mugabe, he cut the deal when he was leading the struggle to free Zimbabwe, which was known as Rhodesia, named after Cecil Rhodes, the Rhodes Scholarship. He cut the deal that, quite frankly, that Nelson Mandela did not cut. He said, no. I don't just want the vote. You're going to give me my land back. And boy, these people hated him. But when I went to the Kenyan swearing in of President Kenyatta, maybe 10 years ago now, if not longer, what happened was the stadium erupted because all of the heads of state, they invited Reverend to be a part of this as well, all of the African heads of state and heads of state, Black heads of state from all around the world were invited to this inauguration. This is Jomo Kenyatta's son, right? As soon as Mugabe came into the stadium erupted because people really didn't understand that the decision that he made to get land reform, to get our land back, was of such great moment. And so when I see Prince William and Prince Harry, who are head of these various land trusts and animal preservation organizations in Africa, I go, what is that about? Is it about land ownership, Robert?
It is about the control of Africa and of the colonized world, and whatever verb or adjective or noun you want to put over it, it is still the same good old-fashioned European colonization. And I want people to remember that, take India, for example. They, for most of their colonized history, were not under the direct rule of the British monarchy. They were under the rule of a corporation, the British East India Company. They had the corollary, the Dutch East India Company. They have effectively sold off nations around the world to individualized corporations to exploit in the name of the crown. Compare that to the 20th century. You get rid of the British East India Company, get rid of the Dutch East India Company, but what you bring in is Shell and Exxon and BP, and you bring in De Beers, and you bring in companies that harvest oil and human beings, etc. Because at the end of the day, it is the same system. You take off the robes and gowns, you put on business suits and iPhones, but you're still running the exact same system which is in place. And then what they do very adeptly is they use their media in order to start brainwashing you from a young age. From the minute that a little girl comes out, we start calling her princess. The minute you turn on a video game as a child, you're rescuing a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed princess from the capital so Bowser or somebody can't kidnap her. Every TV show or movie that you watch is this historically based drama. If you're in Jerusalem in a Bible movie, people have a British accent. If you're in a movie in ancient Rome, people have a British accent. If you got space Nazis in Star Wars, they have a British accent. If you go to Middle Earth and Tolkien, they got a British accent. If you go to Lord of the Rings, or if you go to Game of Thrones, they got a British accent, because they want to put into your mind that this empire is so old, so long-lasting. They have been put here directly by God. So the opposition to them is opposition to God itself. That is the level to which the tentacles of European, British, and other monarchical systems have invaded our brains. If you look at the Supreme Court in Zimbabwe, they were still wearing powdered wigs up until a couple of years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
If you visit Yeah, if you visit Central and South America, you still see colonial era architecture in the middle of a hot tropical beach somewhere, and they still wear little British uniforms around. This is a level of global brainwashing that has to be cut free. And then whenever a leader stands up to fight against it, they turn them into the evil, despotic, communist dictator. You can look at what they did to Gaddafi. You can look at what they did to Mandela before they decided that he was useful. You can look at what they did to Mugabe and Sekou Kitswana and Shakur and all around the world. Look at what they did to Ho Chi Minh and Chairman Mao. You make them the villain. Imagine Star Wars where they turn Darth Vader into the villain and into the hero and Luke Skywalker into the villain. That is effectively the brainwashing the planet has gone through, and that's what we're seeing this morning, quote unquote, for the death of the empire, as many people are calling it.
Hey, everybody, what do you think about that? What is the Commonwealth if not British Empire 2.0? That is a headline from an opinion piece by Afna Hirsch in The Guardian. I mean, think about that, everybody. Think about it. Let's talk about this today. What is empire? I mean, and where does America fit in it? Dwight McKee, you make the point. America's very, very vested in this. But remember, you have the City of the Vatican, okay, which is the religious authority of the world. Thank you, Dwight, for kind of making it real simple. You've got the District of Columbia, which is the military authority of the world. And then you've got the City of London, which is inside of London, England now. That's the city within the city. That's the banking center of the world. That's what she's head of. She was head of state now, and now her son is head of state. And she asked the Commonwealth countries who were prepared to elect someone of color to head them. She said, no, before you do that, would you put my son in charge? Just do that as a favor for me. It just happened a few years ago. Think about that. And think about what happened to Prince William and his wife, Duchess Kate, when they went down to the Caribbean in May. It was a disastrous trip. They had to abort it. They had to leave. Because people said, now we want to, look, even the Jamaican prime minister shocked them. He said, look, I'm glad that you're here, but you know we're about to become a republic, right? Ooh. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me. Renee, you need to call in. 773-763-9378. Back in just a minute. Oh, you all are too much. I love it. Are you still there?
I am. I just find it amazing the level of brainwashing that has taken place over the course of the last 500 years. Where I'm looking on my timeline of people that I know who are on the continent or in the Caribbean, literally like having full conniptions, like a member of their family died. That white lady don't care about you at all. If you and your whole family died right now, it would be worth nothing to them. But you have people who are psychologically invested in this myth of the divine rights of kings and this belief that Europeans are simply supposed to be in charge, and they cannot deal with this conceptualization of that reality falling apart.
And you're the demon. You're the demon seed when you say, wait a minute, you know, you're not supposed to do this. And then, of course, then they bring Megan there, God bless her. And, you know, she is, I'm your sister. I'm like, but your father argued for you to be mixed race and not black on your birth certificate. Okay. Yeah, y'all, don't get mad with me. I read it in the paper because her father got into a fight with the doctor. Did you see that? Did any of you see that?
I don't watch the Royals at all for any reason. I can't tell you the line of succession, but what I can say is the fact that people are surprised by 80-year-old white people being racist is strange to me. I don't know what the level of social progressivism they thought was going to happen in the British monarchy, but this is not the first time that a heir to the European throne has fallen in love with a black woman or African woman or so on and so forth. This is just the most recent opportunity. Remember, the crown is an institution, not an individual. Different families hold the crown. Different people hold the crown. It's about what you do with it while you're there. And as long as you are the head of that family and not trying to work your way to redeem what they've done globally, then you are part of the same empirical system that has to be destroyed.
Well, you know, but you're also more useful in the system. You know, you can be utilized, right? I mean, because you can't just bounce white people in front of these black folks anymore. So, I mean, interracial marriage, I mean, when, people got a little upset with me when I said, well, okay, I mean, I'm happy for them and I wish them all the love and luck, blessings, really, that you wish for any couple. But I thought that the conversation that she had with Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah Winfrey didn't go in on her the way she went in on Michael Jackson, but that's another story. Are they going to be dark enough? I'm like, all your life you've played racial ambiguity. What are you talking about? Hello.
Yeah, I'm always circumspect of people who only become black when it's very, very convenient. And then as soon as the blackness is no longer useful, they kind of hop right back over into the little enclave they've carved out within the white supremacist power structure. I think
1 minute, Miss Jackson. And I just called Kevin Gray, and he told me he needs a couple minutes.
Okay.
So he might be a little late coming onto the segment. I know you still have some other callers or some other guests on, though.
Okay, no, I do. Do I? Okay. All right. Just get in my ear and let me know when he's available. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll text you as soon as I have him on.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Oh boy.
I'm always amazed with how much Americans buy into that system. The things that
we have about 20 seconds or so.
Monarchy. If it happened here, we'd have revolutions. If Trump tried to put his face on the money, they'd have a revolution in it.
So remember, hold on, I'm coming in.
We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Oh boy, I see you all checking us out today, trying to figure out what we're talking about. What we're talking about, Queen Elizabeth, and just what British monarchy is and how might it change? How will it change? It's going to change. It's already changed under King Charles. Who are they? Who is she? I mean, how is it that she was able to grow this Commonwealth? There were fewer than 10 countries in it when her father, King George, died. And when she ascended to the throne, she grew it to 53 countries. 94% of them are in Africa and Asia. They're places of color. That's where she rules. She rules over places of color. That's it. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Dwight, you were saying that America's fascination with the British is surprising to you, but is it really when you think of the fight that Americans had? Just let me finish. That we did have the royalists in the United States. And so it's not like we just walked into, I want to be independent. No, Americans were kind of hot under the collar. Some of us did not, we remained loyal to the crown. And it seemed, and then even President Trump, we should become on the Commonwealth. I was horrified when he said that. I remember calling you. I said, can you believe he said this? Dwight.
What I was saying is the things that we tolerate or hold dear with them, we wouldn't tolerate for ourselves. If Trump wanted to put his face on the money, we'd have a fit, which is the Queen has her face on the money all over the world. If Hillary rode around in a gold-plated stagecoach, we would have a fit. And yet the Queen rides around there, and again, focusing God Save the Queen.
With footmen.
The things that we encourage about them, we wouldn't tolerate in this country. It's amazing to me.
I mean, but I also look at the business side of this, because this is business. It's business. It's business. It's business. It's business. I mean, the largest landowner on earth, Queen Elizabeth. The largest landowner. She was the only person to own whole countries. A friend of mine said, no, it was the crown who owned it. I said, no. That's That's her coin. That's why the firm protects her. That's why she had a whole, and now her son has a whole mechanism around her because kings were rich, not their countries. So think about that.
Well, that's what they call kingdom.
Because it belonged to them, right?
That's what they call kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they call kingdom. Because they're domains of the king. It's all of this is about land and holding. And these families, these small group of families in Europe, owning and controlling the resources in the land of the world. It's and what they do is then they sanctify it and turn it into pomp and circumstance and have people celebrate it vicariously as if they are somehow benefiting from the lifestyle of the rich and famous. It's incredible brainwashing. Incredible brain. And it's brainwashing. It's generational brainwashing. And they don't have to really work hard for it with it because we start the process ourselves with our children at 2 and 3 and 4 by telling them the fairy tales and the stories and the mythology of the princes and the frogs and the dragon and the castles. And we implant in our children the mythology growing up. So they don't really have to work hard because our kids are already preconditioned to believe that. We are more invested in the queen and the princess and the prince at some levels than the English are. The whole world is brainwashed. I think Robert hit that right on the head.
Well, let me bring on Kevin Gray, former president of the South Carolina ACLU, of course, the author of the best-selling book, Killing Trayvons, an Anthology of American Violence, manager of Reverend Jackson's campaigns in South Carolina, these historic campaigns in 84 and 88. Been working with him for a long time. But you have an interesting background. You and Robert relate to the crown a little bit differently. Because you have, but I think that if we really understood monarchy and the business of it, I think that we would too as Americans. But that having been said, your mother's Canadian. Yes, Kevin?
My mother's Canadian. Yes, she is. And my mother's in mourning. Mm-hmm. Yes, she is. My mother taught, before she moved to South with my father, my mother taught first grade at Queen Elizabeth High School in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. So, we've grown up with the Queen. Every year when my grandmother would send the Christmas bundles, she'd wrap up all our Christmas gifts and send them south. And in every one of those packages was around 10, they called them tea biscuits or cookies, with a picture of the Queen on that tin. So, we grew up with the Queen being a part of our childhood and our lives. And, Canada being a dominion of Britain, they were always proud of their relationship with Britain. My mother's people left America with the enslaved Africans, former enslaved Africans. They left the United States with the British Army and settled in a place called Preston, East Preston. You have East Preston and North Preston, named after Robert Preston, who was the garrison commander over the British troops at the Boston Massacre. Even my mother's father's people, who came from Jamaica, and they all have ties to Sierra Leone. They were British. They were British loyalists. It just amazed me. I mean, the name Gray comes from the Colonel Charles Gray, who was a commander. I think he was a regimental commander. I'd have to go back and look at the history books, because we have all these books that chronicle the Africans that were loyal to the British. I have them in my house now. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a monarchist. I'm not a monarchist. I don't believe in kings and queens. And just listening to the last guest, I totally agree with them. I mean, the fact that we're all speaking English is the legacy of colonialism. And the idea that the sun never sets on the British Empire, that's all about colonialism and imperialism and white supremacy. But, as the young folks say, it is what it is. When Lou Gossett filmed, I think it was a miniseries, The Book of Negroes, which was the list of Africans that left the United States for Canada. And in fact, the woman that chronicled or the people that left was an enslaved African woman from Charleston, South Carolina. Of course, Charleston was named after King Charles, but that's our history, and my family history, and it's interesting. You got the Queen on the money, and you just grow up and believe, regardless of the carriages, regardless of the idea behind this idea of a constitutional monarchy or monarchy, that somehow Queen Elizabeth was different in her dignity and how she carried herself. And my mother and all the people that I grew up around going to church, with the hats and the purses like the Queen, they modeled their behavior after Queen Elizabeth. Yep. So, I mean, it's kind of an odd history, but it is the history that I have.
Well, but is it really that odd? I mean, and think about it. What happened? What has shifted, Kevin? And I'm going to, take this question from you to Robert to Dwight. What has shifted? The trip that Prince William and his wife, Duchess Kate, took to the Caribbean last spring, this past spring, was a disaster. They had to cut it short. Indeed, they were standing with the Jamaican prime minister, and they just thought it was going to be a nice visit. He said, we intend an independent republic. We are moving on. And then they got caught they were like, whoa, wait a minute. And then they were trying to figure out statements on slavery. And they didn't quite get it right at the first pass. They had to end the trip, and all of the headlines were like, this is a PR disaster. I saw the BBC, I saw Al Jazeera. I even saw CNN say, they need to get out of there. This is bad news. What has shifted? Because they faced some boos, they faced some people, more than a few people on the ground who wanted them out of there. What's happened, Kevin? Well,
I mean, it's everything that I just came in on the tail end of some of the conversation, but it's everything that the earlier guest talked about, and it's my boat.
I was about to say.
Yeah, but it's, time has changed. People are more aware of their own histories. We're in a period here in America of deep identity politics. And in that identity politics emerges reparations, emerges the wealth disparity, emerges this idea of elites that versus the powerless, and how the world was built on stolen labor. And for the most part, that stolen labor was organized and managed by the crown, and I think people understand that now more. Even in this country, I mean, when you think about triangular trade and slavery or enslavement, the only reason that Britain decided to end slavery before the Americans was to try to maintain control of the colonies. But, I think at this point in history, people are looking really seriously at systems and how to change systems to make them fairer. And you always, I think, have to look at the foundation of oppression and inequity and start there from to make any kind of significant change. If you don't understand the foundations of oppression, then you'll never be free.
Robert Patillo, what happened on that trip to the Caribbean this year? Because they were really, and it did look they look to be out of step. You're sitting up there in this tropical heat, waving at these people, shaking their hands through fences. It's just crazy. At least when given my politics.
The crazy thing is, if you read some historical accounts, the only thing that changed was the video quality. There were plenty of occasions throughout the British imperial history where they will make state visits of this nature, and they'd have very similar greetings. The only difference was they will be accompanied by a BBC pool reporter who will just edit those parts out. And they would just take the pictures and only show the good pictures. They would write the article and say, "Oh, the Queen was met with raucous applause by her subjects here in Barbados, etc." Now you get to see what actually happened because you have real-time information technology. That is what has actually changed. These people ain't never wanted those British people there. And they didn't want Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, or any of these other European monarchs there. They tolerated them because they had better weaponry. And that is the basis of all imperial or monarchical rule. There's no difference between the Windsor family and the Bloods, the Crips, the Vice Lords, or anybody else. It's just that they're better at it. The European monarchs were just gangs of thugs who fought each other. Whoever had the most thugs who killed the other ones declared themselves king. If you're able to fight off the rest of the other kings, then you got to keep all the money. And that's then after that, you tell people God made you in charge. And that's the basis of the monarchical system. Then as this information starts to percolate its way through the previously colonized world, you're having more and more people, more and more groups have open conversations about what exactly really happened to their countries. Because the period of European colonization and imperial rule is a bat of the eye in world history, is a blink of the eye. And so those histories are not impossible to recover and restore, but it takes a global awakening. And I think, unfortunately, it took the death of this nice lady maybe to spark that. But once you start breaking down those walls, you have Africans cooperating with Caribbeans, cooperating with South Americans, cooperating with the Aboriginal, with Southeast Asians, with Indians, etc., and going to the UN, the World Court, the Hague, the International Monetary Fund, and everybody else, and start saying, look, either y'all give us our money and our stuff back, or we're going to just form our own system and cut y'all out of it because we control all the resources. That's the conversation we're starting to see having. And maybe we'll call it the whatever Queen Elizabeth or Victoria Act for Global Reparations, and that will be what it takes to finally rebalance the scales on the global economy.
Dwight, your thoughts before I go to the callers? Dwight, are you still there? Well, let me go to Noel. Noel from Chicago. How you doing, Noel?
Good morning, Santita. How you doing?
It's great hearing your voice.
Yes. I mean, I was watching Fox News, wasn't it Hannity? And he was angry that people were questioning this very topic.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's thinking, okay, maybe the Queen, she passed away, and the whole concept behind that is going to die, but it will not. Why? Because you have groups like NATO. It's the same concept of European domination, where you have a bunch of European countries forming a military alliance, supposed to be a defensive alliance, but their main purpose is to defend all these places, the Queen, everybody else, then to defend those resources. So how does a military alliance send its plane to Libya to kill Gaddafi? I mean, how is that a defensive move? So the whole concept of European domination of the rest of the world, it still exists up to today. And that's why they can spend on the military and nobody bat the eye. But if you forgive student loan, people are up in arms about that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anita from North Carolina. Anita, what's on your mind today? Anita? Okay, I believe she's still there. Well,
Good morning.
Okay, Anita, what's on your mind?
Okay. Well, I think as a woman, I guess she's done a lot, because women generally have a hard time just managing a family. And I just say I'm very afraid of what King Charles is going to do. He's different and newer, and sometimes they rebel their families and make blunders. But anyway, I think for all of that, I heard him what he said about these thugs and things that were killing each other, and then decided to call themselves kings. That's funny, but that's American gangsters in the black neighborhood. That's where we modeled our examples from. So, and then we'd be shocked and blame it on black people. And Elijah Muhammad said no. But what I want to say is, hail to Queen Diana, and I hope the Jackson children will explain to William and Harry what democracy really is and what it can't be anymore. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they're really that interested in that. I think that the monarchy has modernized. They've made adjustments. That's why when Harry and Meghan married, their responsibility, they were to oversee the Commonwealth, which wasn't surprising because the Commonwealth is 94% black and brown. 94%. 53 out of 56 countries are black countries.
Santita?
Yes.
Excuse me, but your dad says, do not, by all means, do not adjust. So the American Indians has to be dealt with here, and we can't play the fairy tale role, okay? So
Okay. So are you saying that Meghan is a fairy tale role? I mean, what are you saying?
I'm saying the fairy tale role is that we believe that the gangsters that came and killed each other and called kings and took over the American Indian nation here and kidnapped people from Africa. These people want to be answered to for what happened. So if Meghan and Prince Harry decide, that they're not going to listen to their mom, they're going to be in big trouble. I mean, God's judgment is on them, but we do have teachers here. You and your two brothers are excellent teachers for the whole world, and nothing else is a standard. That's the standard. Do not adjust. Deal with the truth and justice.
Well, now Meghan and Harry aren't even in the line of succession, which is the other thing.
They're not, but you know what? But they are here. I don't think that is insignificant. Number one, I'm saying I don't think it's inconsequential that they're here. They have one child who was born in Britain, Great Britain. They have one child who was born in the United States. She's becoming increasingly political, and she signs her letters not as Meghan Mountbatten, Windsor Mountbatten, or whatever her last name is. She's now Meghan, Common Duchess of Sussex, and it is illegal for an American citizen to carry a title. I mean, that's in our founding documents. So, Kevin, what gives?
But they live within the Commonwealth. But no, I was saying he's not in the line of succession. And when you look at the line of succession, where it's going forward, that line of succession is still going to be white. And it certainly won't be Meghan and Harry's kids. And what is Harry is eighth in the line of succession?
Yeah, but I think but one day one of them is going to marry someone who's even blacker than Meghan. And, because we don't have a problem browning up imperialism. We just need imperialism. Imperialists need imperialism to go forward. And whoever heads it up, they're all right with it.
I mean, in a functional way, I am not supportive of a monarchy. Mm-hmm. But when you the way that Parliament and the idea of coalition governments and the idea of being able to vote a quote-unquote prime minister / which would be the equivalent of our president, to be able to vote vote of non-confidence and oust a person without going through an election, I believe in coalition politics and the kind of where the prime minister has to come before the people and speak every week and talk about politics. Mm-hmm. I do like that part about the British system of government.
Oh, I do too. I do too. Yeah, because I watch their debates on C-SPAN. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it takes a larger degree of knowledge and intellect to stand up in front of a constitutional body and explain yourself on a regular basis. We get press conferences and bland speeches and photo ops. They have to say what they mean during the prime minister's talk to Parliament. I really enjoy that feature of British.
I've got 1 minute.
But all of the land is already passed out. So the debate is really moot. Is it really?
I guess what? That's that too.
All of the land is, you know, what you have is arguments between landowners and folk land, and their land has been passed out for hundreds of years, and titles have been given for hundreds of years. So most of those debates are just symbolic, because nobody owns the right side of the aisle on any land in that in Parliament. You know, it's the Lord and the Commodores. I mean, think about that concept for a minute. The Lord,
the House of Lords, and the House of Commoners. Yep,
and the Commodores. You know, everybody else. And so, unless you on the Lord's side, you really ain't got a vote.
Well, had it not been for the Lord, where would I be? You can't make this stuff up. But everybody, I tell you what, you need to pay attention. I think we'll be talking about some of this on Keep Up Alive at 7 o'clock. Of course, go on iHeart radio stations. And please check out Robert on WAOK on Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to get some closing thoughts from my guests, from my family here. But I hope that you all have a great day. We'll be joining Tracy and all my friends, Ramonski, over at the Club Steppers event in the park tomorrow night. Can't wait. Love you, everybody. God bless you, and have a great weekend. Okay, my beautiful people, I want to get some closing thoughts from you. I've got to run because I got to go. I've got an Uber that's going to meet me here in about 5 minutes. But I want to get closing thoughts from you, Robert, before you go.
Well, I think to Dwight's point, it's amazing that they've created a parliamentary system where rich white people in England get to debate how to spend the money they got to steal from around the entire planet. Right? Yes. No, we should be spending this money on more military expenditures so we can enslave more people. No, I disagree. We should be spending this money on more military expenditures so we can bomb the Germans. It's an insane system they have set up that we've all bought into. And I think this is a conversation we need to be having on a global scale on rebalancing that economic system and getting back the things that have been stolen. The fact you can look in museums around Europe right now and find holy artifacts from different civilizations around the globe.
But they won't give back, Robert.
Those are probably the bad people.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Those are probably the bad people in the movie. The people who are stealing all the artifacts and putting them in their fancy castle. So back against the bad people.
They asked a British official if he should return all of those artifacts. He said no. They belong to us. I'm like, how? You stole them.
Who could top that?
Huh?
Who could top that?
They don't even know what they stole. But this last point,
that and the difference between William and Kate and Harry and Meghan, I think, is that William and Kate have so embraced that golden chariot or that golden carriage, and I think that shows with how they carry themselves and what happened when they did their tour. They've
all embraced it. Idea. They've all embraced it because quite frankly, that is how all four of them function. There is no difference. One is Americanized, one is still British. It's the same thing. And I think that as Americans, we need to watch it before that moves into our government. That is something that makes me uneasy. You sent letters.
House of Commons versus the Senate and the House of Representatives.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But I'm saying when you have a duchess sending letters to Chuck Schumer, to the heads of our government, to the highest people in our government, talking about policy. Wait a minute, are you a citizen or what? No. That for me is unsettling. And I think we need to watch it.
I mean, the legacy of imperialism is that we're all speaking the language of imperialism.
Yeah, I get it. But I'm saying as we are watching them modernize, because one thing that this monarchy's been around 1,000 years, one thing you got to respect is game. Game, you got to respect the game. They modernize. They constantly. William even married a woman named Middleton. Found someone from the middle class because I mean it brought them closer to the people, and on it goes. I mean, just I'm just saying. I think it's something we need to. It bears watching. It really does. But closing thoughts, you all. I gotta catch this Uber. Kevin.
No, hey, look. All I can say is, you learn through history, and we have to educate people in a different way about this history and about and how they're watching this whole little play out this weekend and analyzing it, because it says you can go online and folk are mourning the Queen like their mother died, black people, and some of it's kind of ridiculous, and the idea that you in this country, which it used to be Hollywood royalty, and now it's switched to political royalty, which makes it possible to make that next step to the strong man, which is what Trump tried to pull off. I mean, it's all a very consistent pattern of power.
Well, Trump is not the first strong man. The other strong men that we have smile, but they all do the same thing. I mean, strong men tear down whistleblowers. That happened before Trump.
Yeah, and when you think about American royalty and then political royalty and playing that game, I mean, automatically you think about the Kennedys, and then even when you look at focus claim where Obama bashing, I mean, Obama being part of that political royalty. Everybody wants to play that
they're
game.
in it. They're in it, and that's how this thing works. Dwight, you want to say something? I have a minute before I have to go.
Well, you know where all this is going when you see whose face they're gonna put on the money. Now that Queen Elizabeth's dead, look at what happens to the money and whose face is on the money. If Charles's face is on this next issuance of currency around the world, then you know that the beat goes on. If there's some changes in whose face is on the money, like in the Caribbean, like in Africa, then you'll know it's a changing of the guard, and there's a redistribution of the resources.
We'll see, and then we'll see some mysterious things happen to their leaders, but they got to keep on fighting. Keep on fighting for your independence. I love you, everybody. God bless you. Please like and share the show. Love you, love you, love you. Boom, boom, boom. Love you, love you, love you, love you all. Love you, love you. All right, Sylvia, listening from San Diego. Sending you much love, girly girl. All right. First time online. Oh, girl, I'm so glad you love it. Yay. Love you, girl. Check us out on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson on the iHeart Network on Sunday. I'm sure we'll be getting a little bit more of this. But love you all. Love you, Dwight. Love you, Kevin. Love you, Robert. Miss Andy and Mr. Chivari, thank you for a wonderful show. God bless you, everybody. Have a great, great day. Love you.